carrots and parsnips. That's a big one. Swiss chard and baby beets. We got stuff going on here now. The weather is turning cold. Still a few left. There's a bit of goodness right here, and I can reach it with my one hand. Ooh, got it. Kiwi. This is a kiwi that I bought from a big box store a long time ago. It's got a pretty good base already. I don't even remember what it is. I just remember a bunch of clearance stuff, and I planted. I had extras, and I didn't know where to go, so I planted it here by this ornamental cherry to at least make this cherry into a trellis that will harbor some fruit. And it's making some really big kiwis, and I'm looking. I think I ate them all already. Never got a record of it, but there's one way up there. Let's see if I can find it now. Not there. There. There's some pretty big kiwis. I'm going to try to climb up this. This is going to be a cage for chickens, outdoor cage for chickens if I ever get any. I don't know if it'll, I don't think it'll support me. Maybe I can get on that top of that barrel there. There is big old kiwi here. Look at that. Northeast Wisconsin. And I'm eating kiwis. Growing right on my backyard. That's a big old pear right there. These like it when there's a couple of very deep frosts. Deep, low temperature frosts. Like in the mid-20s. Then they taste like sugar. But I won't eat them. I'll feed them to the deer, so I'll fatten them up. This bed here represents an area that I grew garlic in this last season. And the season is still ongoing yet, but we're approaching November, and it's going to draw to a conclusion fairly rapidly. But I transitioned the garlic. You know, as the garlic was growing, I had radishes and some beets and other things I harvested out of there. But I also planted white salsify seeds. This garden bed here represents an area that I grew garlic in this last season. That was the primary focus for this bed up until I harvested the garlic. And while I was growing the garlic, I also grew radishes and beets and some other things. You know, I picked them all as they were kind of more immature, but I did get some pretty good harvest out of it in that regard. There were leeks in here. I harvested most of those, or all of them now, but what's left is, this is mustard, and this is for nematode control, and I will kind of disc it in and put some fertilizer, worm fertilizer over the top of it. For next year, this is going to be planted in potato onions. And now what's left is, other than the mustard, which I haven't been harvesting the leaves of the mustard for salads, but now the thrust is white salsify. And that's what these leaves are. Before everything freezes up, I'm going to take all the ones up in the front here, all the way until we get to these bigger ones in the back. And the bigger ones in the back I'm going to allow to overwinter. They can get frozen in the ground, no problem. And then in the spring, when the ground thaws out, they can be harvested. And I probably will elect to let some of them go to seed. So these plants here that have a lot of leaves indicate big roots. Maybe I'd harvest this year in fall because there's so many together here. Gotta space them out a little bit. Maybe, maybe I won't. I don't know. Oh, look, there's a Swiss chard growing back here. Ah, it's a beet. That's one of the beets. I missed it because it was way in the back. Well, we'll let it grow. You can see a white, here is a white salsify plant that I pulled out as I was preparing the other bed. That's a nice root, and the leaves are also edible. The focus of this video is to show the bed next door. I'm preparing for garlic, planting right now. And I picked out 21 of the biggest cloves that came out of this bed. And I'm going to plant them right now. I'm going to space them apart more than I did last year. Last year I had 55 in here. This year I'm going to have 21 in a larger bed. And we're going to focus on more white salsify and more parsnips. I want to put parsnips in with them. See how to do. And I'll probably raise better radishes and maybe beets and some other things too for a quick harvest in the spring. After I'm done planting the garlic, I'm going to fertilize it with worm fertilizer. The worm tub, I could tell when they were hungry, I wasn't feeding them enough, they started to eat the burlap that I had covering to preserve moisture. Like here. Oh, they're still working on that yet. So we'll get that out of the way because we just want some of the fertilizer they produce, and then we're going to be putting some worms in there too, obviously. Let's see if we can see some worms. Hey, right there. This thing was just seeded with worms that I had on the property. I put compost down in a spot kind of thickly, and then I went through it after a couple weeks and I picked out all these little compost worms that were up in there feeding on the compost and put them in this tub with compost and horse manure. And then I started feeding them all this green material. And now I have a lot of worms in here and a lot of fertilizer. I don't want to put a shovel in here because I don't want to cut any in half with the shovel. I'd rather have them take their chances with my fingers. They don't eat eggshells, so I figured that out. And that's okay, I'll pick those out. And I can always just bury it with them too. Not that big a deal. I want a good batch of it here. I'm going to fertilize a spot I'm going to plant garlic in. Actually, I already planted garlic in it. I'm going to put this over the top, and then I'm going to put some straw over the top, or I'm going to put some chicken wire over the top so the squirrels don't dig up the garlic cloves, and then I'll put some straw over the top of that. So I'm planting a diverse crop in these beds, and I'm planting it very densely, and it's going to need this food here that the worms produced. Okay, now we're going to get in here and get this green material back in here underneath the soil. I put so much green material in here, it's just unbelievable how they ate it all. No, they ate it all so quickly. Okay. There's a regular worm got in there. No, that's a compost worm. Just a big mature one. Look at the little babies. Well, I'm going to be sending him into a brave new world, so you better get ready. Now you see we have bricks here lined up, holding down the chicken wire that's heading underneath here. And garlic's planted. I got some old straw that was laying around that was wet. Laid it on the top. Kind of kept it away from some of these plants that are still growing. It's actually got a brand new leaf coming up. I think these carrots will grow up through it too, depending on how much time we have before everything freezes up solid. When everything's about to freeze up solid, I'll yank all those out of there and eat them.
There's another one I kind of kept apart. Maybe I can get that leaf through that opening, that chicken wire. Yeah, not too bad. But the old straw is to keep the soil from drying out. And then I also poured some of my ferment tea over the top. Further discourage the squirrels from coming in here digging them up, but the chicken wire is good enough. I've done this lots of years in a row. Just got to make sure they can't get under it, that's all. That's what the bricks are for. We're good to go. I also ferment teed my white salsify. I want more. I want bigger. I want fatter. We do have a red pepper here too that's getting close. Still got some green on the bottom. We got 3 real nice days coming. Now this one here I can take out of here, it fell off. We might even get these to start to color a little bit. The 10-day forecast, there's no frost. That's pretty wild. Most of this morning harvest came out of that garlic bed that I prepared and planted garlic cloves in. We'll run through them. This is skirret. All these little shoots here can be replanted for new plants, but I don't. Well, maybe I'll take them up north. That might be. But all these big roots I'll cut off of here, and these are going to be for. See, I cut that off with the shovel. I keep doing that, and looking forward to it. I haven't had any skirret since spring. We got a couple onions that were still hidden in there. Those are set onions that just sat there, and leeks. Got some leek flowers. I'm going to fry those up this morning. Yellow carrots, little baby ones. Little baby beet. I picked it primarily for the leaves. Some honey nut squash that grew in the shade. They should be like 5 times bigger than this, but they're sweet. They're really nice. Worth dealing with. Some tomatoes that had fallen off the vine that I think will ripen up on the windowsill. The only eggplant that I grew this year. I bought it on clearance deep into the season. I planted it in the shade. Then it made 1 eggplant. I'm going to eat it. White salsify and a pepper. The creme de la creme of elephant garlic. Nice ones. Nice ones. I'm going to plant them right now. This little enclosure. Chicken wire is necessary to keep the squirrels from digging them up and eating them. This is black walnut husk compost that was processed by worms. You see there's still worms in here. I kind of dug this out in an area where there wasn't any food, so there weren't as many worms. But I know there's some in here to be shown. Lots of little ones, so babies. It's really cold. Back there behind the shed. This is really rich fertilizer. I'm going to be putting it over the top of the elephant garlic that I just planted. And I got to find some sort of a ground cover to go over the top of this. I got some straw. I'll probably use straw. So, this is a bed that I had a mixed planting this year. Then the woodchucks came in and ate it all down to nothing. But some of it survived. After I put this cage on, it grew. So now I've got beets in here, and parsnips, and black viper root, celeriac, fennel. There still is a pretty good amount that I can harvest yet. The parsnips I'm going to leave in the ground to overwinter. Celeriac, beets, and fennel will all be harvested. So, oh, and also the black viper root can stay in the ground. But now I planted 39 cloves of elephant garlic in here, and I'm going to cover all those holes that have a garlic in them with this worm compost. Plus I'm going to hopefully get a ½ inch of it on the whole bed. A very nice arrangement. You can see the worms now are trying to get down. This is warmer soil than what they're used to. So we'll see how they do, but be that as it may. Whatever they can do, they can do. I didn't have enough to cover the whole bed, but I got a really good dollop over the top of every single one of these elephant garlic cloves. I do have some black walnut husk compost think I'll get some of that and put it over the top of these worm casings. Then I'll put straw on. Been planting garlic today. That's all I got left. I'll find a spot for it. I got some peach pits to bring up north, black walnuts to clean, and I've got a compost, skirret, and horseradish to bring north. The skirret is already planted in the soil. Horseradish is tough, it don't matter. These potato onions represent the most large size that I have ever harvested. Some of them are just monsters. But these will store, I've had them store for longer than a year already, still be hard as a rock. So that's why I'm very interested in these. And the largest ones I don't replant because there's a lot of eyes. Like this one here might have 15 eyes. Well, when they grow together that densely, they don't form a large size again. Ooh, here's a rotten one. So there are rotten ones once in a while, but this one here is rotten. But very few do that. And if they do it right away. So I'm putting these up into my storage cupboard in the kitchen. And I'm not going to start eating them yet because I still have set onions and I still have leeks. So after the leeks and set onions are all gone, then I'll begin to eat on these. I also have lots and lots of smalls and mediums. I haven't sorted through them yet to figure out what I'm going to do. Drawing down the water tank. It's right here right now. And I have to empty it because if that valve freezes, it's going to crack. Looks like I still have a good week before I have to get it completely empty. Once it's empty, I'll open it up and I'll prop it up so that it's not going to fill up with water. I made sure these honeyberries got a lot of water. All these trees and bushes along the edge. Garden beds. We should review the garden beds. So, this bed has recovered very nicely after the raiding woodchucks just about demolished it. So what we have here, by the way, it's the end of October, and here we have beets that are beginning to grow, fatten up a little bit. I just had extra seeds, so I put them in the corner to see what happened. Celeriac, leek, and that leek actually bring two different stems out of the roots, and the other one making seeds. I've seen that before. Another beet that is black viper root, those long fat leaves. Red mustard. Parsnip. Another celeriac. Beet. Pea, which I don't think I got enough time for, but they're planted. Celeriac. Chervil. Another beet, a couple of black viper root in here, a couple of leeks, another parsnip, peas, fennel. Ooh, here's a really nice black viper root. Even if they're small like this, I've noticed that if you let them go through the winter time, sometime in spring, after a month of growing, they get to have a pretty sizable root. Definitely harvestable. So the woodchucks, I think, are hibernating. I haven't seen any for a while. Haven't been too concerned about them. But I'm going to leave this fence in place, and then in the summer I'm going to put a piece of chicken wire over the top. This one here is the first one I actually began to protect. I put chicken wire and then stitched it together at the top. This definitely took the woodchucks out of the game, and now I'm getting some real nice fennel out of it. Again, we got celeriac, beets, black viper root. This fennel here is actually starting to bulb up. You can see it down here. So I think I'm going to get a good bulb out of it. beets, celeriac, parsnip, beet, and I've been harvesting out of this, so all the leeks are gone, and a lot of beets have taken out of here. And these are nannyberry plant trees that I'm going to plant up north in the spring. There's actually a skirret plant in here, right here. So, end of October, and we still got lots and lots of food, just in these two beds. I dug out the Captivary gooseberry plants that were in here, and I planted garlic. I'm bringing this bed back into annual production. This is one of the plants right here. This is a leaf of a Captivator gooseberry. There's two more left to dig out of there. I'm waiting because these beans here aren't mature yet. I don't want to pull it out of the ground. Feel there's beans in there. Those are ready. And it's got medlars overhanging the bed. How do you keep wanting to call them mayhaws? But they're medlars. These are very nice. You have to let them on the counter and they get soft. It's called bledding. And they taste like apple cinnamon. It's not going to be cold for another 10 days or so, at least in the 10-day forecast, and I think we're going to get these blackberries ripened. These are blackberries that fruit on primal canes. Or is it flora canes? Well, one or the other. I'm beginning to apply the worm casings to the garden beds. I got a lot of worm casings here. And I've been putting a lot on the beds, and I still haven't even taken a quarter of it yet. I have a little water left in this tank. I'm going to fill up this barrel here with greens so I can fill it up with water and do a ferment like these four. All four of these barrels here are all filled with greens and water for next year's compost. The water I'll actually use, a lot of the water I'll actually use for watering the beds in early spring. Fertilizer. Against the back wall there are skirret plants, and if you can notice, there's two of them that have a lot of stems. Those are the two that I'm going to harvest right before everything freezes up, and I'm expecting some really good roots because those are 2 years old. And the rest I'll save for spring. I'll dig them up in the spring for harvest right after the frost is out of the ground. I already harvested elephant garlic and radishes and beets and all kinds of other things. What's left are parsnips. These are going to be left in the ground and harvested in the spring after the frost is out of the ground. And I've already planted some elephant garlic in here. Just 5 cloves, 5 of the biggest cloves are replanted into this bed. Looks like I didn't grab 2 of those cloves. You see them on the top right there? It takes a little effort to open this door, so I guess they're going to stay there for a while. This garden bed has been planted with the 21 largest garlic cloves that came out of the bed next door. So last year I had, I don't know, 89 cloves planted in that little bed. This year I'm going to spread it out more and plant a lot more differing of species. So definitely white salsify is going to be part of that mix. They work so wonderfully here with that very dense planting of garlic. Ooh, I think it's red enough now. Oh yeah. Look at that. Oh, there's a little green to it. That's okay, we're good. Too late now anyways. That's wonderful. Forgot to bring this batch of food in here yesterday. Except for this one I just picked.
These are all tomatoes that have color, and I think they're going to ripen on the windowsill. Another little squash, a couple of leeks, celery, pawpaws. These actually, two of them actually, I've been touching them to see how soft they are, and they're soft. When I went to touch them, if they were soft, they just broke off. And this one here I bumped, and it's hard as a rock yet. And when I bumped it, it fell off.